Johnny, the word of the day is Ujima. Greetings and salutations, Cleveland and the rest of planet Earth. The greeting is different today because we are in the midst of Kwanzaa. I'm actually coming to you live from the Lakewood Presbyterian Church, which of course is in Lakewood. Very happy to be with you today. Our broadcast partner, Hamptonio, will not be with us today. He had a third shift that he had to work, and so we'll look forward to seeing him next week. But until then, we will continue with the show. We have a great guest with you today, and we're going to continue the Truth series. You know, we've been visiting with scholars. We were to have Ashra Kwesi on with us last week. Unfortunately, he was not able to join us. But the week before that, we had Brother Tony Browder with us, and checked last week, we had close to 2,500 views on that video. So I want to thank you all for joining us on that video, and do us a favor and share that video because Tony Browder was absolutely profound. He dropped a lot of wisdom in that broadcast. It was 2 hours long, and trust me, you'll want to watch the entire video. While I'm on that subject, I'd just like to invite all of you to like and subscribe to this YouTube channel if you are viewing us on YouTube. We do our very best to bring you quality content week after week, and today is no exception. I also just want to let you know what's going on in terms of Kwanzaa today. In addition to the Kwanzaa that I am participating in today, there will be a Kwanzaa commemoration at Ile-Ife Institutional Baptist Church today. So you might want to check that out if you are able to, and I believe there is an address on there. It is 8711 Quincy Avenue in Cleveland. If you want information, you can reach out to Sister Kwanzaa Brewer. She is handling the PR for them on that. So Kwanzaa today at Ile-Ife. Also, the National Sorority of Phi Delta Kappa is having a commemoration at the Warrensville branch of the Cuyahoga County Public Library, and that starts at 1 p.m. today. The Ile-Ife Kwanzaa starts at 4 p.m. today. Tomorrow, you can go to Mount Zion Congregational Church, and that is over there on Magnolia Drive. It looks like it is 10723 Magnolia Drive. Monday, which is tomorrow, the Golden Ciphers and the National Rites of Passage Institute, Inc. will be celebrating their Kwanzaa at, I believe it is the Phyllis Wheatley Association over there at 4450 Cedar Avenue. Of course, Tuesday, I'll be hosting a Kwanzaa at Kings and Queens of Art, and that is 1385 East 34th Street. It's right between St. Clair and Superior. If you're interested in vending for that event, just reach out to me. You can send me an inbox message on Facebook, and I will definitely respond. And then on Wednesday, January 1st, at the African American Museum, 1765 Crawford Road in Cleveland, they will be commemorating Imani. They're asking you to bring a non-pork dish to share, and you can reach out to Francis Caldwell if you're interested in that. I don't see a time on here, but I am sure that it will be on the African American website, the African American Museum website. So there you have it. Kwanzaa here in Cleveland. We're happy to do it. And, you know, some cities they're not blessed to have Kwanzaa. While I'm on the subject, I will also let you know that the Greater Cleveland Kwanzaa Association is commemorating 40 years of Kwanzaa in Cleveland. So thanks to Paul and Marquita Hill and Doris Willis, we are celebrating Kwanzaa in Cleveland today. That brings me to our guest today. She is not a stranger to some of you. She was also a guest on my radio program, Open Door, on another radio station in Cleveland that I won't mention, but is doing great things. Her name is Dr. Stella Iwuagwu, and her story is so impressive. I can't read all of it to you, but I will just give you some bits and pieces just to introduce her to you. She's a social entrepreneur and passionate human rights advocate. She earned a Bachelor of Nursing Science degree from Obafemi Awolowo University, Ile-Ife, and a master's degree in public health from the University of Ibadan. She obtained a PhD in health education from the Southern Illinois University, Carbondale, through the Walker Presidential Fellowship. Upon realizing that the right to health cannot be accomplished without access to healthy food and healthy environment, she initiated the Sustainable Demonstration Farms, an organic integrated learning farm through which she is educating community on the intersection of agriculture, nutrition, environment, health, and human services. She shares her personal experience to promote the concept of food as medicine. The farm has produced and packaged an array of vegetables, herbs, fruits, and spices as teas, powders, and capsules for culinary and medicinal purposes. In furtherance of her passion to promote food as medicine and in memory of her father who died from prostate cancer, Stella co-authored a book titled Nourishing Your Prostate, Harnessing the Power of Nutrition to Prevent Prostate Cancer. It's available on Amazon and most online shops where books are sold. So with all of that, welcome to 360 Information Network. I'm just going to change the name. 360
Thank
Info
you.
Network. Dr. Stella Iwuagwu.
Thank you so much. I'm happy to be in your midst.
I'm happy to have you here. And I just have to tell you how impressed I am with your story. I mean, your bio is rather lengthy. And of course, when you've been on the planet for a few years and you've done quite a bit, there's a lot to say. So we had to condense it, you know.
I
I relate
know.
to that. But what resonates with me so much, because we talk about this on this radio program all the time, is the importance of nutrition. And I think one of the major issues that we have, not only here in America, but as you shared with me on other conversations that we've had, you know, around the world, as people adopt the Western diet, they are dealing with the consequences of that diet, and much of it is the lack of nutrition in our diet. So before we jump into the discussion about diet and nutrition, we'll talk a little bit about you and just give the folks who are listening who may not have been exposed to you a little bit of background about your story, and how you arrived at being this courageous and fearless advocate for nutrition and health here on planet Earth.
Well, I was born in Nigeria, the first child of 8 children, and my mother sold vegetables, so we lived on really healthy food. And my mother made us, we go home, you know, our educational system was based on the agrarian calendar. So during the farming season, we're out of school, so we always would go to the farm with my mom and my grandmom, and we ate from the land, and we were very, very healthy. So producing my own food is something that I've always done all my life.
Mm.
So I did. I studied nursing, and at the advent of the HIV epidemic, I was confounded by the way health professionals were treating persons with HIV, the stigma and discrimination, and the whole thing about the immune deficiency syndrome and the lack of treatment. And these were some of the things that made me found Center for the Right to Health at the time, an organization that was founded to promote the right to health. At the time, people were hopeless. There was no treatment. There was nothing. But then I started looking at immune deficiency syndrome, that is AIDS. It means the immune system is broken down. So, in the absence of medication, nutrition became our go-to to build the immune system. So, even way back then in the early 90s, I started treating people with HIV with food to build their immune system. And because we didn't have access to medication at the time, so people responded. And then medication came, and we kind of, you know, how we always look for the easiest way out. We kind of emphasized medication, and, you know, and the band played on, and it was all medicine and medicine, and we forgot the fundamental. Fast forward many years later, I got a scholarship to do a second master's at NYU through the Oprah Winfery Scholarship. And then after that, I went and did my PhD. It was in the course of, I was practically rounding up my PhD when I got into an accident. This was in 2007. Actually went to Nigeria to do my dissertation, and I got into an accident, and I was brought back to America. I became paraplegic. I was wheelchair bound. I was dealing with so many pains, and there was so many complications as a result of the spinal cord injury and the traumatic brain injury. I had high blood pressure. I had bladder issues. I had neurogenic pain. It's practically as if every organ in my body had a doctor, and I was on so many medication, and I was practically barely coping with work. And then in 2015, exactly January 1, 2015, I got a phone call. My younger sister died. She died from complications of childbirth. They had left pieces of placenta in her womb, and she got multiple organ failure and died. I was so broken. I felt I had this survival guilt. So here I am in America receiving the best of healthcare, and my own sister died because she couldn't get quality health care. I was burnt out and broken, and I resigned my position at CSU. I used to teach as an assistant professor at Cleveland State University, and I resigned and left for Nigeria with the goal of advocacy and activism around the right to health and patient rights within our health system. But slowly, I came to recognize that the health system was overwhelmed by very ill patients. Our people were so sick. If a doctor has to see 100 people a day, there's no way they can be efficient. There's no way there won't be a lot of mistakes. And I really realized that we have to do something about the causes of illness. And in the course of my research, of course, I've always known that food is a major determinant of health. But then I started looking at the food landscape. If people eat well, their immune system will be better, and they will resist infections, and they will not have to deal with chronic conditions. I started looking at what people are eating. There was this novel rich phenomenon. Everybody is looking for the food that they get from the supermarket. A lot of people are not farming as they should. There are a lot of consumption of processed food. And even where they are eating food from the farming system was such that wasn't the traditional farming system that my mother and grandmother raised me on. The farming system was such that we were so dependent on fertilizers and chemicals and pesticides and herbicides. And even the quality of the seeds have to be bought. We didn't grow back the seed that we're used to growing that from last year's harvest. So this really scared me. I saw farmers carrying knapsack everywhere. Nobody's weeding anymore. And that bothered me. And I was trying to figure out what are the regulations, are there any training, and there was practically nothing. So it occurred to me that the food people are actually eating is poisoning them. We had increased incidence of cancers and kidney failures and all kinds of health conditions. You see people in their 40s and early even 30s struggling with degenerative diseases like arthritis and chronic pains, and it was just overwhelming. And I just realized that there's a lot of pollution in the environment. Every home practically has a generator. There's so much fume. There's little or no control of emission. And I just realized that the air is poisoned, the water is poisoned, the soil is poisoned, and all of these are contributing to the really chronic health conditions that people are overwhelming the health system with. And I realized again, I had to modify my theory of change, that we cannot accomplish the right to health without accomplishing the right to healthy food and healthy environment. You may have an abundance of food, but if that food is grown in an unhealthy environment or using unhealthy farming technology, that food actually will cause more harm than good. And even where people are eating right, eating food that is not poison, sometimes it is not what you're eating could kill you if the food is poison, but also what you're not eating in terms of vital nutrients can also hurt you. food that people were consuming were predominantly carbohydrates, predominantly sugar, predominantly fat, and this also could contribute to inflammation and degenerative changes that I was noticing around me. So I made up my mind to grow my own food. So I started a homestead garden just to grow the food that I'll eat. Little by little, I just grew vegetables. I put down some dwarf fruits, early yielding fruits, bananas, tangerines, oranges, pawpaw, coconuts. I put all of them down. And then I started growing vegetables. I started growing herbs. I started a little fish pond, a little poultry, a little snailery. I started a mushroom farm. And it was not meant to be commercial. It was just to grow what I would eat. And then I started eating these things. I was eating vegetables, mushrooms, snails, fish in so much generous quantity that gradually I started seeing miraculous changes in my body. One, I was losing weight gradually but consistently. And then I was able to get off my pain medicines. I weaned myself off my pain medicines. By then, I could barely walk. There was so much pain. I had so many arthritis pain, inflammation. I had issues with my blood pressure, with my bladder. I mean, I was on 21. I came back from America with 21 medicines that I was taking about 3 times a day. Gradually, I started weaning myself off those medicines to the point where I was taking only 3 medicines. So all my nutrients, all my vitamins, all my minerals were all coming from natural food, particularly plant-based food. And it just really, really, really personally dawned on me. I've always known this theoretically. I have used it in the past in terms of using food as medicine. I had used food to heal people, to help people deal with HIV and other chronic conditions, but it has never become, it was never personal. When it finally happened for me, it was no more a theoretical concept. That food can heal you became real for me. That your body can regenerate, that your cells, they told me you can never move a muscle, you can never walk. I was walking independently with a cane. That was how much recovery I got at the time. Though COVID came and did a number on me, but at least I knew that my body healed itself with natural food.
So let me ask this, as you talk about how food assisted you, and I heard you mention plant-based. I think I also heard you mention fish. Where are you on the spectrum in terms of what you eat, and how much of it is raw versus cooked?
Well, I am of the school of thought of eat a little bit of everything, eat everything in moderation, but I ate a lot more plants than animal. I ate mushroom, I ate fish, I ate snail, I ate goat meat, and they're all farm raised. They're all fed on grasses. I mean, we didn't have enough grain for food, not to talk of the one you give to animals. So they were all naturally raised. They were free range. So I was eating all of that. But I ate a lot more vegetables. In a plate, the carbohydrate will just be a tiny morsel. And then the vegetable is like half of the plate. And then I have healthy protein, either the fish, the snail, or the chicken, or even everything had mushroom in it, you know. So I have them in those forms cooked. My vegetables are sauteed. My routine is first thing in the morning, I take my herbal tea. And the herbal tea is like a forest. I get my lemongrass, I get the back of moringa, a little bit of ginger, turmeric, black pepper. I mean, I just throw the whole. Actually, that is where I discovered my 22 combo. I have one of my teas called 22 combo. That 22 combo has 22 ingredients. It had mushroom, it has ginger, turmeric, lemongrass, it has kale, it has mint, it has, it has everything, 21 of them. So it has both fruits, it has banana, it has carrots, So what I could have So I could gather all of those herbs, I boil it in a big pot, and then I would drink it first thing in the morning before my exercises with a lot of honey and fresh lemon. Hot, I'll drink that before 6 o'clock. Then I'll do my exercise. Then by the time I finish doing my exercise, my smoothie was ready. My smoothie, I call it green juice. So it's all greens and, again, lots of ginger, turmeric, and lots of greens. I blend it all up and with a little bit of um, honey, and then I drink that. That is even before breakfast. That is before breakfast. So I drink that. That is around 7 o'clock, immediately after my exercise. Then breakfast could be any light meal. It could be oatmeal, but again, with lots of vegetable. Everything I ate had vegetable in it. So lunchtime could be beans and a little bit of rice and loads of vegetable and rice. So it's that was the way. Eating with lots of vegetable, lots of fruits was a way of life in different forms that I ate them.
So I heard you mention oatmeal, and if you're online, you're going to get overwhelmed with information. There's a doctor named Dr. Stephen Gundry, and if you're on YouTube, you're going to see, or at least I do all the time. He'll come up with an ad, and he'll basically criticize oatmeal. He says it's fattening. He talks about lectins. He talks about grains. There's some schools of thought that suggest that the morning is a good time to consume fruit, but it's not a good idea to consume sugars in the form of those grains. I'm just wondering what your perspective is on what the best thing to do in the morning. And I heard you mention 6 o'clock, you're up and you're doing herbal teas and whatnot. And I'm really impressed that you're up that early in the morning anyway.
Oh, sometimes earlier because I had to work hard on my exercises, my stretching and strengthening because I was really motivated to work. So I was very up early. Again, this thing is not by a one size fit all mechanism. People need to eat what is available to them, because we eat what is grown in our land predominantly. Apart from oatmeal, it could be yam, it could be beans, it could be plantain, it could be corn that is made in fermented corn that is made in the form of pap, like grill. Okay. So I really believe that eat what your body tolerates in moderation. Eat a little bit of different things. Find out what works for you. You understand? By the time, because different things have different nutrients. If you eat a little bit of different things, you will see what works for your body. And then you adopt that. Because everybody is an expert of their own body. We cannot make a blanket prescription. There are people that tell you, oh, it has to be keto, you don't want to do any grain. But there are cultures and communities where all they produce is grains. What are they going to do? Throw those away? Eat the things you grow from your land. But the thing is, vary it, have variety of things. You understand? Don't eat the same oatmeal 3 times a day or every day. Some days you eat oatmeal if it works for you. There are some people that are sensitive to gluten. If you're sensitive to gluten, then don't eat it. If it is not working, it's giving you bloat or it's making you uncomfortable, then don't eat it. The important thing is know your body. Know what works for your body. Because if you say, oh, don't eat gluten, some people do well. I've never had an issue with oatmeal. But then I don't even eat oatmeal up to 2 times in a week because I have options. I have yam, I have plantain, I have moi moi, which is made from bean cake. I have different kinds of corn and different kinds of cereal. You understand that you can make either in pap form or you can make it in a patty form. You understand? So there was really variety of food. Africa is very rich in variety of foods that you can eat. So we had really wide spectrum of food that we can eat, and that is what I did. And this is me sharing my own personal experience. What worked for me may not work for someone else.
Right. I also want to mention that sometimes it's not the food, but it's the way the food is created or processed. I grew up eating breakfast cereals, for instance. It was always which one is mom going to buy and influencing mom to get Captain Crunch or this one or that one. But one of the issues with those cereals, as I understand it, is most of them, if not all of them, are grown from genetically modified grains. And with the genetic modified grains, you also have glyphosate and other things that get into those foods. And then
Exactly.
when you look at the ingredients on that box, one of the very first ingredients is sugar. So
Sugar.
it's a problem automatically. And then you're going to have food dyes and other things in that cereal that are going to cause even more problems. They say, and I can't quantify it because I'm not a scientist, but they say that some of those additives are things that are responsible for behavioral issues with our children. So could you set the record straight about those breakfast cereals and why they might be dangerous?
The truth is that's a lot more. That's just too much sugar for our children in those breakfast cereals. And then of course you don't have enough fiber in them. You don't, because it's been processed. There's added sugar and stuff, and then the preservatives. And of course, most of these things are grown with the same chemical that research has shown are pretty harmful to our system. It changes our hormones. Either kids are maturing too fast or is affecting their brain cells, and the ability to really function is really a challenge. So how we work in Africa, at least where I come from, when you get corn, we ferment the corn. You get your natural corn, you soak it in water for 2 to 3 days, it ferments. You get this lactobacillus in it. So your corn becomes a superfood with pre and pro that is rich in probiotic. And then when you blend the corn, there is a way you can make the corn where we call a piti, where you take the corn with chaff and all, and you form a patty, put some salt and pepper and little fish and crayfish. That already, you can add some vegetable to it, that, and then make it into a patty. That corn has become a full meal. Or you can sieve the corn and remove the excess fiber, and then make the flour with water. It becomes a gruel that you can eat with moi moi. Moi moi is made from beans, okay, or akara, which is made from another form of beans. Or you can boil beans and spice it up, and that you eat it. So your corn is your basic carbohydrate with lots of vitamins, and your protein is the beans, black eyed beans, or the brown beans, or any kind of beans. So you find out that our local food is natural, is rich, and is delicious. But we tend to, because it might not be a very convenient, easy to make, because you have to practically make it fresh each time. So you find out that people want something that is convenient. They'll now start going for cereals, box cereals, and all that. But with proper planning and education, we actually can do that. And now there's a trend in my country, entrepreneurs like myself, we are working towards using our local cereals to create food that works better for our young people, so that working mothers can have healthier options for their children that is not loaded in sugar. The thing with sugar is an acquired taste. When we raise our children with sugar, they get used to the sugar and they might not want something else. But when you start them early on healthy sugar, even the corn itself has its own healthy sugar. When you eat natural healthy sugar, it doesn't overwhelm your taste bud. And there is another thing: when you eat balanced diet, when you eat food that has all the classes of food, that has both the spicy, the sour, the savory, you find out that your taste bud is satisfied. You find out that the nutrients is getting into your cell. Your craving will reduce. You'll be satiated. But when you are eating purely sugar, so you have this insulin rush. If you minutes, hours later, you are hungry again, because we tend to feed our stomach. We fill our stomach up, but our cells are devoid and empty of nutrients.
So they're still craving nutrition even though your stomach is full.
Exactly.
Yes. Let me ask you about oils and fats, particularly. You know, I'm seeing a lot of information that indicates that seed oils are not good for you. So you have cottonseed oil, sunflower seed oil, canola oil, which is made from rapeseed. You have all these different seed oils, and there's something about the imbalance between omega-3 and omega-6 fatty acids. Could you talk about the importance of using quality oils like olive oil, like coconut oil, as opposed to using some of those seed oils that seem to have such detriment
One,
to it?
the way those seed oils are extracted are not healthy for our cells. And they're also loaded in the omega-3 fatty acids. And that also kind of boosts inflammation. So it increases the level of inflammation in our blood vessels, which actually make us prone to having damage to the blood vessels that can actually lead to other complications. So it's better to have the olive oils, the coconut oil, even the palm oil that are extracted in a safe way, and they are actually healthier than seed oil. And with oil, you don't need a lot. I know that the olive oils and coconut oils, they are not cheap, but it's better that you use a little bit of it, and it even tastes better in your food.
Can you tell us how to determine whether or not you're getting quality olive oil or other oils? Because I know for commercial purposes, sometimes they blend other oils in with the olive oil. So it might be olive oil mixed with canola oil or corn
Mm,
oil, soybean oil, which they call vegetable oil for some strange
mhm.
reason. I've
I
never
know.
understood
Where did the oil come from? Corn.
that. Yes.
Honestly, I really do not know the answer to that question. So I really do not know how to tell if the olive oil is real or not. But I just go to good stores and buy good oil because you get what you pay for. When you go
Mhm.
for cheap, you get cheap, really.
Oh,
But if you know the answer to that, you can share that with us, and it's something that I can do some research in and get back to us on that.
yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to find out. You know, I get what's described as organic olive oil, extra virgin olive oil, but there are certain tests like putting in a refrigerator, and if it solidifies, it's genuine. If it doesn't solidify, then you know that it's blended. But some of those others or other oils might solidify as well. So that's not a good test, but I'm going to do some
On
research on it
Well,
too.
that is something worth researching because, man, we are not so sure of what we're eating these days.
Yes, and there are just so many other ways that food is corrupted, but I just want to make sure that I get folks to understand that when you're dealing with corn and when you're dealing with soy, uh, so much of it is genetically modified. I mean, if it doesn't say organic on the package, or if it says it's bioengineered, then you know that it's been genetically modified. But corn is one of the most pervasive food products that we have in our diet. I mean, you have high fructose corn syrup, you have flours that are made with corn. You know, when you get your Doritos, you have genetically modified corn, and then on top of that, you have monosodium glutamate, you have
Mm.
preservative, you have food colorings, all those things, and it's they call them excitotoxins.
Yeah.
MSG is an excitotoxin. So when you
Mhm.
eat that food, your brain gets a certain stimulation, and whatever the reaction to it is, it does something that causes you to want more. And that's one of
Exactly.
the issues. Go ahead.
Yeah, you're right. Because again, you get addicted to these things because it gives you this excitement. It releases endorphins that makes you to crave and want more. But when you eat food that is quality food, When you eat quality food, you're satiated. You don't have craving. You could actually not eat for 8 hours and still be okay when you've eaten quality food. And our constant consumption of is such a vicious circle. You eat poor quality food that is loaded in fructose and corn syrup. Your body is not even able to digest it. It doesn't even get into your cell. It's not even recognized as food. So your body, you've eaten, but your cells are empty and they're still craving, looking for quality food. Then you grab a donut, you grab a snack off the vending machine. No, but when you eat things like eggs, or you eat things that are rich in protein with natural fat in it, that's another thing. When we do all this fat-free, when you do the fat-free, the tendency is they chuck it full with a lot of sugars. And still, it's still a recycling of a vicious circle of that inefficient nutrient. The nutrient is not available to your system, and your insulin is rising. Each time you put something in your mouth, the insulin rises, especially if that thing is high carbohydrate, high sugar, which will spike your insulin. And then after a while, your body is not able to respond to the insulin again. And then you start having some of these chronic conditions. And then some of those oils also increases inflammation in your body. It leads to some of the free radicals. The other time we talked on the radio, we talked about free radicals. All these are elements, things that actually hurt your system. And when these free radicals bombard your system and attach to cells, it's called oxidation. And this oxidation is like rusting, like denaturing of your cells. It affects the way the cell is supposed to function. The cell does not get to function effectively anymore. And the cell feels like it's dying, like it's going to die. But no cell wants to die without replicating itself. So what happens? The cell that is denatured goes on overdrive of reproduction. It begins to multiply, divide and multiply into new cells. Unfortunately, the cells that are multiplying are already denatured cells. So you have a proliferation of denatured cells. And before you know it, you start having cancers and unusual growth and unusual situation in your body that leads to a lot of the chronic conditions we're dealing with. Mm-hmm. If that is not the case, then you have the inflammatory cells, which are like protective cells. These protective cells, their function is to remove things that are not natural to the body, things that are harmful to the body. Anything it sees as foreign, its role is to remove that from your system. Now, those denatured cells, your body sees them as foreign because they are not normal. It will begin to attack those cells to try to get rid of them from your system. But now imagine the more free radical that is getting into your system, you're dealing with oxidation, so also will the inflammation kick in. When inflammation happens a few days or over a few weeks, that's acute. It's trying to shut down the cell, get rid of it. But when it is constantly bombarded with damaged cells, so your body is in a constant state of fight, then the inflammation becomes chronic. And it is that chronic inflammation that causes a lot of damage, because when inflammation happens, you see the cell swells, rigid cells, it becomes rigid, it becomes tight. Whether it is in the inflammation can happen in the blood vessels, it can happen in your muscle, it can happen in your joint. So at each point, even in your pancreas, different organs experience inflammation. And then you have adhesion, even in your stomach. When inflammation happens, it's like you're dealing with ulcers because you're in acute state, you're in a chronic state of inflammation. When it's in your blood vessels, it leads to the rigidity of your blood vessels, and you're not able to pump blood as you should. And before you know it, your blood pressure is rising. If the inflammation is in your pancreas or organs that are responsible for delivering insulin, You find out that you're not able to produce or utilize insulin as you should. If in the then you say you have diabetes, that's for type 2. If the inflammation is in your joints, then you see people having to deal with arthritis that are very debilitating because there is a constant state of attack on those. So your body is practically attacking itself. You see people with Crohn's disease or autoimmune diseases. That is really the foundation of this. What used to be normal for you suddenly is not normal anymore. Your body is not able to recognize your normal. So how can the center hold when the body is fighting itself? Because it's trying to get rid of a lot of these negative things we're putting in our body. So it's a chain reaction. And the only way to stop the chain reaction, this reaction, is to first stop. The good news is that you can stop it and reverse the damage. And that's what happened to me. Once I started eating foods that are rich in antioxidants, I started eating foods. I had another thing I had was sunshine. I was eating food that are rich in vitamins, your A, B, all the group of vitamins, your B vitamins, your A vitamins, your K vitamins, your magnesium, your selenium. As you're eating these vitamins, food that is rich in these vitamins, the body has what it needs to begin to heal itself. Oxidation will be halted. The damage that had been caused will begin to be reversed. So it's never too late for anyone to start to make the changes. And this change.
Yeah. So in essence, you're saying stop feeding fuel to the fire.
Exactly.
By taking out the things that are causing the inflammation in the first place.
Exactly. Yes.
Yes. All right. So
and it's not only food also. Our sedentary lifestyle is a challenge. We eat, we crash. Our stress, not having a work-life balance, not taking time to exhale, to breathe. That's one of the things that I want to start in Cleveland and maybe globally is tea time, me time, tea time, we time. Cultures that have places where they have a tea culture, they live longer, especially when you're deliberate about your tea time, particularly women and men too. We are in a rush, we're in a hurry, everywhere, eating at a desk, everything is, on the go. But if you could make 5 minutes, how many times have you brewed a cup of tea? And before you know it, that tea has gone cold and you've even forgotten you have the tea. You're either answering your phone or you're looking at something in your computer and you forgot. So I have a program that I call Tea Time, Me Time. You can't rush a hot cup of tea. So when you have a tea ritual where you are deliberate, it's one of the things that the British people or even the Eastern nations, what they do with tea, they have a set time. They have beautiful teacups and tea jugs and all the things that they go into their tea ritual. When you pour the tea, focus on that tea. Don't even let everything can wait, because if you drop dead and die, everything that seems very important, well, life goes on. But give yourself that 5 to 10 minutes, maybe 2 to 3 times a day, to inhale and exhale. Take your time to see the tea you're making. Appreciate the color. As it's steeping, focus. You pick up your teacup. The steam hits you. Feel the steam on your face. Inhale the aroma of your tea. Just focus. Then take a sip. Feel the flavor in your tongue. Appreciate it. Take a gulp as much as you can, with not knowing that it's hot. And allow it to burn down. Feel the warmth. Cradle your cup if you can. Feel the warmth of it. There is something about tea that is so comforting if we give it the time, if we focus and really appreciate the healing nature of that tea to our body. Even if it's just hot water and lemon you're taking, The point is to focus, make it a meditation time, make it a me time. Give yourself that time, you deserve it. Every other thing can wait. Women, we're running, we're taking care of children, we're taking care of everybody, and we don't really slow down to really inhale and exhale. By the time if you do it right, by the time you finish your teacup will still be warm, and you can actually cradle that warmth and sit still and be. We don't do
You
enough of that.
Dr. Stella, I really struggle with consuming extremely hot beverages. So I would be waiting for it to cool down a little bit. But
But
you
while
just
you're waiting, even if you're just staring it, just be present.
yes.
Be
You
present.
remind you reminded me of a tea ceremony in Japan because they may have it in the UK, but they have it in Japan too. And it's generally a really small cup of tea. There's green tea, which I kind of developed an affinity to when I was over there a few years back. But I get what you're saying, just taking that time to focus on what you're eating. It's like when we eat our meals, many of us, we eat our meals like this. And when
Mm-hmm.
we're looking at the screen, we're not appreciating the food that's in front of us that's giving us all that nutrition. So when you're
Mm-hmm.
focused on that food, you're thinking this is something that is providing a benefit to me. And I think the cells in your body are in agreement and they're thanking you for your focus on the medicine that's bringing life to each and every cell in your body. I so appreciate that perspective. Another thing I want to mention before we go, because we have just a few more moments on the radio broadcast, and I'm going to take this opportunity to let those know who joined us late, perhaps, that this is 360 Info Network, and we are speaking with Dr. Stella Iwuagwu. She is an advocate for homestead farming. That means grow some food in your backyard, in your house, whatever property you can get to, grow some food and get the benefit from it. And speaking of that food, it brings me to the next point, and that's the importance of eating whole foods. I was listening to Yaki Elohim this morning, and he was just talking about how much his diet has changed and how much progress he's made. He's down to 145 pounds. And he said that part of what he is doing is he's eating foods that don't have a list of ingredients. So the eggplant is just eggplant. The celery is just celery. The mango is just mango. All those things are single ingredient foods. They're whole foods, and they have all those nutrients that you mentioned, the antioxidants that you find in fruit, the minerals that you may find in certain vegetables that provide healing. So I know I've kind of given you the answer to the question, but could you talk about the importance of eating whole foods versus eating processed foods that have a lot of ingredients?
It's a whole food, particularly live food, have rich active enzymes, okay, that you won't get in dried food or refrigerated food. So it's good to eat your food as fresh as possible, as whole as possible. Eat your fruit instead of drinking fruit juice. When you eat your fruit, you're eating the fiber, and fiber is an important component of whole food. Okay? Um, when you remove the fiber, you are just eating carbohydrate. Not that carbohydrate is bad in itself, but it needs a balance of fiber to slow down the absorption. Okay? Especially for people that are trying to lose weight. Whole food is your best bet. Don't go getting tangerines and fruits in syrup. Buy the actual fruit, wash it, and eat all of it, fiber and all. That's what your body needs. And you find out that it's like a broom. The fiber in whole food is like a broom that sweeps through your colon. You see, we might not avoid toxins completely, but might help our body to sweep them away. When you eat food that are not whole, or you eat food that full of preservatives or food that do not have enough fiber in them, it sits in your gut for a long time. And the longer it sits in your gut, the more you're absorbing. You're absorbing everything, sometimes much more than your body needs. You're also absorbing the toxins that is in that food. But when you have whole food that is rich in fiber, so it forms a bulk in your intestine, and it enables you to go to the bathroom, go to toilet easily. So it sweeps through. So food doesn't stay and decay inside your gut and ferment inside your gut. You're able to sweep it out, and along with it, the toxins, along with it, the excess carbohydrate and things that your body do not need. Because once you take in the food, your body just takes what it needs. What it doesn't need, it stores. And as it's going through the intestinal system, intestinal canal, its absorption continues. But if you have a lot of fiber that's in whole food, then you find out that you're able to go to the bathroom once or twice a day. And that keeps you healthy. Okay? So really, we can't emphasize it enough. And with the fear of processed food and all, one way we can counteract that is you growing a garden. We can all have a homestead garden. Even here in Cleveland, I have a homestead garden. I have 5 fruits in my house, and the right season, I grow things. And I tell people, if you can grow flower in a flower pot, you can grow vegetable in a flower pot. If you can grow grass in your lawn, you can grow herbs, mints, and all kinds of herbs, rosemary, lavender, those are all the kind. Those are things that really help you so that you're practically growing your pharmacy. I call it edible landscaping. You're landscaping your home. It's nice and beautiful. You're physically engaged in the process. You wake up in the morning, you see what your beautiful hands have created. And then when you pick it to eat, it is the most delicious. I used to have a riddle. What is the most delicious fruit in the whole world? Do you know what the answer is?
I do not.
The one you grow yourself.
There you go. I don't want to let this broadcast go by without bringing up the book that you've written in. And I know I've done a disservice to the men out there who need to know this information. So quickly, can you give them some tips on what they can do to nourish their prostate?
How? Well, it's everything we've really been talking about, really. The prostate requires certain elements to be under control, and it's still food. Nourishing your prostate is just what it is. What are the things you can eat to nourish your prostate? All the green leafy vegetable, all the colorful vegetable. Why did I write a book on nourishing your prostate? My dad had prostate cancer. The doctor asked us to take him home, give him about 6 months, and make our last plans for him. I took my father home. We started feeding him on fruits, vegetables, herbs, sour sops, and different things. My father lived for 12 years, and he aged in reverse.
Mm.
So
Yes.
again, this is a lived experience. It's not a theory. So there are things you can do to nourish your prostate. And I really call on the men amongst us. We've made a lot of progress in women's health. We've made a lot of progress focusing on breast cancer. It is important we begin to emphasize prostate cancer as a major issue for our men. And Black men are more at risk of prostate cancer than others. So it's important you know where your prostate is. It's important we start having that conversation. It's important you know how to examine your prostate. It's important you know when to ask for the test if your doctor did not bring it up. And it's important you start eating healthy food, your watermelon, your tomato, your beans, again, wholesome meal. And then you don't want to live a sedentary life. Don't sit too long. It's not good for your prostate. Keep moving.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And I understand that there are also exercises that you can do to support the health of your prostate. It's a critical issue. I know someone that is near and dear to us is facing the surgery. I'm not going to bring up a name, but I just know that it really is important to have the proper diet and the proper lifestyle so that you can stay healthy and enjoy life. It shouldn't be a death sentence to age. It should be something that happens at your pace. And there are certain things that you can do to control that and to have a better quality of life. One thing that I'll mention before we conclude the broadcast, and this is just something that I recently became aware of, and that is the importance of strengthening your legs. You know, a lot of times men like to focus on the upper body because they want to be buff and everything, but they neglect the legs. But the leg muscles are so important because they help you keep and achieve balance. You know, and what happens as we age sometimes is we're prone to falls because we lose our balance. And they say, once you break that hip, it's a wrap. So, yes, indeed. Dr. Iwuagwu, it has been a pleasure to have you on. You know, we just barely scratched the surface. There's so much more that you can share with us. So I'm going to make this announcement. We are going to have you on a regular basis so folks can check in with you and learn what they can learn about homestead farming and learn what they can learn about proper nutrition and what those herbs do for you, because this herb does this and that herb does that. And if we know that, we can take the herbs and we can leave those pharmaceutical substances on the shelves in those pharmacies where they can do damage to the shelf and not to.
While we're at it, please let people know that they can go to sdfarms.store where they can get collection of our herbal teas.
Yes,
we have a wide range.
I'm going to post a link to your website in the description.
sdfarms.store.
Yes.
sdfarms, sdfarms.store. There you see we have about 30 products.
Okay.
That are posted on the sites, different kinds of tea,
15 seconds left.
Tea.
We got 15 seconds left, and I'll post that link on the description to this video. Thank you to our engineer, Tone Harley, my brother. We love you, man. Keep doing what you do. Keep us on the air. And to those of you who are listening and watching, know yourself, love yourself, be yourself. Make today your absolute best day. Peace, y'all.
Thank you.
All righty. That ends the terrestrial broadcast. Again, I will make sure that I post the link. Actually, I've already posted the link to your website. It's in the description to this video, which will post automatically to YouTube as soon as I hit end stream.
Thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you for joining us, and I look forward to having you back again.
No problem. Thank you.
And safe travels.
Thank you.
All right.